Let's give a big round of applause for Wei-Huan Chen.
So it was the fall of 2011, and I was a senior at Brandeis University in Waltham, Massachusetts, when I was in my living room studying with my roommate, Travis Chewy, when our third roommate, Sarah Richmond, barges into our house and says, "You guys need to come to South Street right now. You need to check it out." So we don't know what she's talking about, so we follow her to South Street, which is this main artery that separates our senior mods from the rest of the campus. And we come across the double yellow lines of the road, and we figure out that a rabbit had been injured and was in the middle of the road and couldn't do anything. And we start freaking out. So context is Sarah Richmond, Travis Chewy, and I, we were all seniors at a campus, very much like an Occupy Wall Street, cage-free eggs, Noam Chomsky, Bon Iver, hipster campus. The official shirt was liberal plus arts equals liberal arts, and we were all poised to cross the threshold from idealism to reality. We really want to make some social change, and here's this rabbit in the middle of the road staring at us with its black glassy eyes, and so we had to save it, and so we start figuring out, like, what do we do? Throughout all my life, I've been a man of inaction. That's something that my parents, my friends, and my bosses have always told me I was utterly incapable. So I took a step back. Travis was an EMT. He saved people. So he said, "Hold on a sec, I'm going to run back to her house." So he runs back to her house. A minute later, comes back with 2 trash bags over his hands. And his plan is to scoop up the rabbit. He's about to do that when I stop him, and I said, "Travis, stop. You might get rabies." And so he stops, and we reconsider, and Sarah Richmond, a Jewish econ major from Pittsburgh, decides to call the cops, and then the phone is ringing, and we realize, wait, this was not a well thought out idea. So we hang up, and again, 3 liberal arts majors trying to decide what to do. We wanted to save the world, but we couldn't do anything to this little thing that was staring at us. And that's when Nathan Koskela walks in. Nathan Koskela was this tall, muscular, arrogant, famous atheist who really knew the teachings of Friedrich Nietzsche and kept lecturing about how the world is a random smattering of particles. He walks in, assesses the situation, and essentially walks off. And I figured that's a very Nietzschean thing to do. A minute later, Nathan Koskela comes bounding back up the steps towards South Street with the biggest boulder I've ever seen in my life over his head. And he stands over the rabbit, and we put 2 and 2 together. And Travis, Sarah, and I, we're all in tears, and we're like, no, you cannot do this. You can't do that. This is the one thing we can't do. Nathan Koskela argues that it is the moral thing to do. It is the right thing to do. We have to end this rabbit's suffering. We pull him back, and we say, "Nathan, you cannot do this." And he shrugs, and he walks off. And it was the last time I ever see Nathan Koskela ever again. And we breathe a sigh of relief. But there's still that problem of the rabbit, and we still don't know what to do. And as we're thinking about morality and agency and social justice, that's when we hear the first car, and the car is coming from the far left side. And I'm reminded that I'm in Massachusetts, where the official term of a resident of Massachusetts is mass hole, which describes the way people drive. And this is a mass hole bounding down the road. And it is not stopping, and we're waiting for it to stop, and the car veers slightly to the left and barely misses the rabbit, and the rabbit's hair is fluttering in the wind. The second car comes, similar thing happens. Third car comes, a big red pickup truck, and I think there's a moment where we see the car veering, being freaked out by us, and we know that it's lined up. The tires are lined up with this poor little animal, and we turn around, and we hear the wet crunch, and I smell it, and we turn around, and the first thing I see is a white tail flying in the breeze. Somehow the tail had been detached, and Travis is in tears, and he runs after the tail and grabs out of the air and decides to unite the rabbit with its body. Very noble of him. This is during the fall, and it's very windy, and the tail goes up again. He tries to grab it again. He says, "I want the tail for good luck." I told him it doesn't sound quite right. And we essentially decide to leave because we did nothing. There's nothing to be done. We go back to our living room, and we're there in a state of depression. And again, I'm reminded that I've been a man of action, and we've done nothing. We've tried so hard, and we want to launch ourselves to the world and graduate and do great things, and yet we couldn't even do this one little thing that needed to be done. But that's when it hits me that I really wasn't a man of an action. I wrote, and I've written myself out of certain things, and it's inadequate, but it does something. So I say, let's write a eulogy for this Mr. Rabbit. So we write a eulogy, and we go back up to the rabbit, and we perform a eulogy. And Travis performs his eulogy and is very terrible. He really was the closest to saving the rabbit, but he was so wrapped up in his own hero complex that he was so guilty, and his whole eulogy was about guilt, and that was not a good thing to have in a eulogy. I want to be a writer, and it was my whole idea, but I didn't realize I actually didn't know how to write a eulogy. I was doing crime reporting at the time, and I was reading a lot of Cormac McCarthy, so my eulogy ended up being a dispassionate recounting of the event, and it was terrible. Sarah Richmond wasn't a writer, but I think she became my best writing teacher in that moment. She knew a rabbit. She had a rabbit growing up, and she wrote a eulogy about how this rabbit, we don't know anything about this rabbit, but her rabbit growing up had emotion, had intelligence, and had sensitivity. And even though Nathan Koskela, the famous atheist, may dispute this fact, maybe this rabbit is in rabbit heaven, and the littlest thing that we can do is to put it to rest. And I thank Sarah every day for teaching me that when I write, when I do things, it's about caring, it's about connecting, and even if it feels inadequate, at least you tried. Thank you.